Welcome to our RightShip podcast. This is where we share the ins and outs of RightShip products as part of our mission to create a zero-harm maritime industry. Today we'll be talking about PortRISK, a very interesting product for the ports and terminal space. I have with me here Ryan, who is the head of delivery, and Chuck, the PortRISK product manager. So let's start with you, Ryan. What are the recent trends in the port and terminal space?
Great question. So we've spent a tremendous amount of time in the ports and terminals market as part of our efforts to develop the PortRISK products. I think the first trend that we've recognized is the adoption of technology. Technology is advancing at a rapid pace, and I think there's an acceptance across the market that technology does currently have a role to play, and it will have a bigger role to play in the future. Here at RightShip, and as part of our endeavors to roll out PortRISK, we're exploring how we can leverage technologies such as AI and machine learning and really bake in the predictive analytics technology that's available in the market to improve the offering we have there. The second key trend, I think it's one we can't overlook, is the environmental regulation in place in the maritime industry more broadly. It's a progressive space. We have clear targets we need to meet, and that's a primary focus, I think, for everyone in the industry more broadly, but especially within ports and terminals themselves. And finally, I think it's the willingness to collaborate and come together. My team and I have spent a tremendous amount of time in the market, and everyone's super friendly on the same agenda in terms of our ambitions to improve what we do. And I think that's really critical. Yes, we can leverage data and technology and focus on targets, but I think it can't be achieved without the industry coming together to make a difference.
And you see PortRISK addressing these trends?
Absolutely. I think especially in the technology space, we can apply technology to many products. I think in the risk management space, there's definitely a benefit to applying new technology that helps us to, I think, be a bit more proactive in predicting risks rather than being in a reactive state. PortRISK, of course, is not tailored to specifically be focusing on the environmental side. We do have the Maritime Emissions Portal product that caters for that. However, when combining PortRISK and the Maritime Emissions Portal, the offering then becomes quite comprehensive in tackling those two key trends. And I think finally, PortRISK helps from the collaboration perspective as well. We have a knowledge sharing module within PortRISK that encourages ports to communicate, share their insights, share what they're observing. Are they facing challenges with specific vessels, and how can they uplift operations and standards more generally?
So for the ports and terminals manager, there are many factors to consider when they're making decisions. And all this information is scattered all over the place. And this could result in delay in operations, and incidents could happen. How would PortRISK help?
Yes, so we recognize that ports and terminals do make challenging decisions every day, and information is actually scattered all across various platforms, various sources. And so PortRISK does this in a few steps. Number one is basically having a centralized source of information, where we look at various information like incidents, PSCs. We then provide an automated solution where vessels that are expected to arrive at a port be screened immediately, and result is actually quite instantaneous.
For me, PortRISK addresses the challenges in 5 key ways. So firstly, it provides ports and terminals with vital information such as vessel particulars, safety score, GHT, DOC, and I think just generally historical performance of the vessels that are heading their way that often ports and terminals might not necessarily have access to. In addition to that, it automatically screens all the vessels coming into port and provides the port with insights as to the risks that might come with those vessels. Thirdly, it provides the ports with strategies that they can deploy. So by understanding information about the vessel, the risks associated with that vessel that could impact port operations, we then provide them with strategies and insights that they can apply to mitigate those incoming risks. In addition to that, we have a module within PortRISK that facilitates kind of knowledge sharing, if you like, and I think that part is really important. I think ports coming together and sharing their insights and observations on the vessels that are heading into their port is super powerful. And I think just the final way that it addresses some of the challenges is really around enabling, and I think recognizing that every port and terminal has different, risk challenges. So not every port is the same, and PortRISK enables the ports and terminals to, tell us what matters most to them, so we can customize or configure the platform or the product to tell them what's most important to them. So, this might be that they're most concerned about, pilot ladder concerns or pilotage in general. It could be noise pollution. It could be a wide variety of things. But I think the important thing is PortRISK can cover most, if not all, bases, which is a real key factor.
So it sounds like PortRISK is pretty flexible. Could you tell me more about how you can adapt PortRISK to the needs of all the ports and terminals?
So essentially, PortRISK has 12 key categories that we can focus on. Okay, so and within each of those 12 categories, there's a number of different, risk rules or areas that we can explore. So in essence, there's hundreds of risk areas or intricacies that we can focus on. Now, our approach to doing this is firstly spending time with the port and or terminal to understand their bespoke needs and requirements, right? So understanding the operations, what are the main challenges that they keep observing and seeing that are impacting, safety, crew, the sustainability side of the port. We'll then dive into, the categories that are almost kind of a bit of a menu that ports and terminals can pick and choose from. So it's really a bit of an a la carte menu, if you like. Ports can select from that and choose the ones that matter most to them. But it's not just about picking the risks that hurt them the most or cause them the most disruption within the port. By nature of PortRISK, we kind of categorize ports by high, medium, and low impact, so we can cater for those low impact areas of concern as well. So it's quite a comprehensive suite of risks that we can focus on, and of course this is driven by the data that RightShip possesses, and of course there perhaps might be times that there's risks that we don't have kind of rules set up, and by all means we work with ports and terminals to make sure that we've got all things covered to meet their needs.
So in your opinion, what are the key benefits we can get out of PortRISK?
So the core benefits of PortRISK are that it looks to reduce the in-house cost of risk management processes and practices. And it also looks to improve the quality of risk management by providing the right data, insights, and elevating risks that matter most to ports. So the way in which PortRISK reduces in-house costs of risk management practices is through automation. So much of the effort and work that ports would need to do in-house in terms of gathering data, understanding that data, and converting that into useful insights that might convert into a potential risk. PortRISK does that all for you. So it automatically scans through all of the data we have available within RightShip, and it will present the high-level risks to the port in question. Yeah, so in terms of improving the quality of risk management practices within ports, PortRISK achieves this by essentially leveraging the vast amounts of data we have available. So we're not just looking at data and presenting that at a high level. We look at the data in detail, analyze the data that's available, and present that to the port in question. So I think one key benefit of PortRISK is the efficiency element to it. So ports can allocate resources and invest a lot of money, which is obviously fantastic in risk management and trying to ensure that the operational throughput is not impacted to ensure commercial performance, but is around achieving commercial performance in a zero harm fashion, right? Okay, so ensuring that there's not incidents in the port, there's no environmental impacts, and also from a crew well-being perspective as well. So whilst that's all important, of course there are commercial benefits to PortRISK in that the reduced time spent within the often limited resources within ports. PortRISK does the kind of hard work for them, so therefore they can deploy those resources in other areas of strategic importance to the port. So there's definitely a cost-saving element to that, an efficiency element, with obviously the upside of improving safety, sustainability, and crew welfare.
Tell me about your journey as a product manager in PortRISK.
The journey is rather interesting. It started with a blank piece of paper. All I had was RightShip's data. So my next step was really talking to customers, reaching out to a few of them, understanding their requirements, whether it fits what we hypothesized with RightShip data. From there, we then built a prototype, basically testing out whether that works for various real-life scenarios, various criteria that this port customer have. We then get feedbacks, we iterate, and with that, we have already built relationship with quite a few ports, understanding the requirements from various regions itself. So what I learned is that RightShip has rich data, so rich that we don't just provide information of what a PSC deficiency is from a vessel itself. We are able to provide analytics with a split second. We are able to tell a customer how have this managing company performed in the last year on its fleet. We are able to perform analytics on a vessel showing what are its trends. We are also able to bridge the communication gap between ports, basically sharing information of how a port observe a vessel's performance and share it with another port that's across the world. So that's a very interesting journey for me. I love my customers, and I definitely love building this product.
There seem to be many features in PortRISK. What's the most popular one so far?
So the most popular feature I think that customers are resonating with and are interested, I think it really hinges on the automation side. Okay, so a port might spend a tremendous amount of time and resourcing on identifying a risk, and I think the power of PortRISK is that can be done in a matter of seconds, if not minutes. Okay, so it's really bringing what's important to ports to them. There's no need to spend time finding data, trying to understand more about the vessel, its historical performance. By nature of the product, analyzing all of this data, it surfaces what's important. I think that's really resonated with all of the ports. So there's an efficiency lens to it for sure, but I think it's the quality of insights that PortRISK is presenting as well. I think for me, whilst it's perhaps not the most, I think, technologically advanced module or aspect of the solution, for me it's the knowledge sharing. Yes, PortRISK provides ports with the risks, the insights, the strategies, which are, of course are extremely valuable and helpful to the ports. But for me, it's the knowledge sharing. And why do I say that? I think focusing internally on port operations and risks and reducing safety incidents, environmental incidents is important. But for me, for us as RightShip to make a true impact on and achieve our vision of a maritime industry that causes zero harm, it's about that knowledge sharing and I think uplifting all ports within a geographical region. So I think that there's power in sharing information, ensuring that a vessel that's within your port that you've had challenges with, make sure that it's not going to cause the challenges for the next port. So it's really that facilitation of knowledge sharing and bringing people together to make a big difference. So is this real-time risk scoring? Yes, absolutely. So we're actively getting data into the RightShip platform in the ecosystem from our data providers, but also from key stakeholders around the industry. And so the data is updated on a regular basis. PortRISK actively looks at all the data we have available and provides that insight. So yes, it's real time, and of course we have new data coming in all the time, which ultimately uplifts the power of the tool itself. We just launched PortRISK, but we already have some customers with us. So far, what has been the feedback from the market? PortRISK is a new product to RightShip's arsenal, if you like. It's been in market for a couple of months now, and look, I think the response from the market has been really positive. We're actively engaging with ports and terminals in the EMEA region and APAC region primarily, and feedback's been great. I think the ports are really resonating with the fact that risk management can be quite a resource-intensive, costly, and sometimes a slow and almost reactive process. with PortRISK. They're resonating with the fact that it's bringing risks to them almost, okay? So they don't have to be spending or investing as much time and resource in actively trying to identify and mitigate. So resonating with the risks being brought to them, I think also the fact that it presents opportunities and strategies that the ports can deploy. The configuration or customization side of the product has really resonated. I think most ports are really pleased to see that approach, given that each port is quite different. The knowledge sharing element of PortRISK is one that I think ports generally are presenting positive feedback about. It's something that of course does need other ports to kind of buy in, and so there's some more work for us to do there. But look, ultimately, the response from the market has been really positive. We're seeing traction with the products, and so there's opportunities, and of course, we're always improving products here at RightShip. So there's definitely more to come, but so far, so good.
It sounds like this product is working well so far, but we are always trying to improve our products. So what are the new features that are in the pipeline?
I think here at RightShip, and I think many product organizations would say the same thing, a product is truly never complete. It's always evolving. So beyond working with our current customers in terms of evolving the current functionality of PortRISK, we're actively working with our data and technology teams to explore new technologies. So things like AI, generative AI, data analytics, and we're really looking to take that predictive lens. So PortRISK looks at primarily historical data and raises insights and risks, but how can we then combine that with new technology and emerging technology to take the product to the next level?
This concludes our podcast on PortRISK. I would like to thank Chuck and Ryan for being here today. Now, if you want to find out more about PortRISK, head on to rightship.com and you'll find out more information there. At the same time, you can drop us an email if you have any questions. So I'll see you in the next podcast.